Hey, happy Tuesday, everyone. It's Carrie from Carrie's Wreath Creations. I'm here today to work on a Mardi Gras wreath. I'm going to be doing a flower that's going to be kind of in a pinwheel style, and I'm going to be using a flower board. So I have a couple of new things to show you today. If you've seen me before, this will be something sort of new and different. Just to tell you what I'm going to be working on in terms of the materials that I'm using, I am going to be using a flower board, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second. I'm going to be using some purple poly burlap, some emerald green, and I actually have a center that I've already made. So we're going to be using traditional Mardi Gras style colors, the purple, the green, and gold. So to get started with here, so you've seen me make flower wreaths on a wire frame before, so this is something a little bit different. I do use these from time to time. So this is called this is a small, unique in the creek board. Sometimes I mean, most of the time you see flowers made on it, so you might see it listed as a flower board, but it's just a wreath board. You could actually make any type of wreath on this. So as you can see, it's made out of recycled plastic. It's got holes drilled in it. So if you're new to making flowers, this is actually a really great product because the holes kind of guide you as to where the flower petals will go, and it keeps everything sort of nice and organized. I did figure out finally how to turn my camera around so that things are not backwards in there. I don't think you're going to be able to see, but basically each one of these rows is labeled. So the outer row of holes is row 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So that's how this is set up. You have 2 holes, so your pipe cleaner, or we're going to use zip ties, can go in and lock. On the back, you can see it says Unique in the Creek there. That is the company that makes this. If you check them out on YouTube, the gal, I believe her name is Lori, she has some really great tutorials, does lots of different types of flowers. And this is not the only product that they offer. This is a small wreath board. There's also large ones, and they have ones that are in different shapes. I think there's an oval, there's a cross shape, there's a triangle shape, which some people use for Christmas trees, or I did one with I made a candy corn on a triangle board, and I'm actually gonna probably do a carrot for Easter on a triangle board. But that's what this product is that I'm gonna be using. So the first thing you wanna do with using one of these boards is to preload it, in other words, putting all your zip ties in. I did that already. So all I did was, I'm going to be working on rows 2, 3, and 4, and I put all my zip ties in and just clicked them 1 or 2 times just to lock them into place. I'm skipping this outer row for a couple of reasons. One being if you do use this outer row, you get a really, really, really big flower. You're going to get something in the vicinity of like 26 inches in diameter, which is kind of a bit bigger than I generally like to make, especially with shipping, because you need a big box to make sure the petals don't get crushed. And I just kind of prefer to keep things within sort of the 22 to 24 inch diameter. So the board itself is 12 inches, just about. So we're not going to work on that outer row, but we are going to work on rows 2, 3, and 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do purple on the outside, and then I'm going to do a row of green, and then another row of purple, and then I'm going to use my pre-made center that I will talk about in a bit. So let's talk about the petal that we're going to do today. I'm going to do something a little different than I've done before. So this is still a 10 by 10 piece of poly burlap that has been cut with a wood burning tool. And so what you've seen me do before is I make kind of a traditional flower petal. They all have names, but I kind of don't actually know what some of the names are. I believe the one I usually do is either called the Dean Michael Daisy Petal, or I think that might be what it's called. It's either the Dean Michael petal or the Daisy petal, or I think it might be both. This one here is something a little bit different, and I don't know the name of it, but full credit to whoever invented this petal. But what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of a pinwheel style. And so you want to take your poly burlap. Here's my factory edges on the top and bottom. And I cut on the sides with my wood burning tool already. Turn it into a diamond shape. So sort of the same way that we do start most of our petals that we do here. And then I'm going to bring the corners up to make a triangle. Now, because this is a pinwheel style, what I really care about is making sure, because what I'm going to end up doing is having something kind of like this. I want these points to be very even. Okay, so because, you know, human error might come into play a little bit here. This might not be exactly 10 by 10. And if it's not a perfect square, it's going to be really hard to keep those edges lined up. So I do have my handy little clips here that I'm going to use just to get my corners here really nice and even. And I'm going to just clip them. Because what matters less in this style petal is, you know, normally when we do the daisy petal, I guess that's what the other one I make is called. I better look that up before I keep repeating that. We care about that tip being together and that other style petal because the way we fold it, we want that to be really even. That actually doesn't matter as much with this style petal. I really care about these ends being very even. So then what I'm going to do, I take the top of my triangle and I just bring it down to where it's folded, just like this, okay? And then what I'm going to do is take one side and fold it over the other, okay? The goal here is to make sure that the two little tips here are even, because otherwise your pinwheel is going to be like kind of wonky all over the place. So I'm going to take these off just so I can get a really good look. And I need to move it over just a tad more to make it really nice and even. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to scrunch this, okay? It is a bit to grab. There's a lot to kind of scrunch there. But then this is your petal, okay? And this is what is going to go into the board, into my preloaded Unique in the Creek small wreath board. So I'm putting about a fingertip's worth of the mesh into the end of the zip tie, and I just zip it in just like that. So that's how my petal looks. Okay, so we're gonna get this sort of pointed petal, sort of pinwheel style going all the way around. So that's the first one. Okay, so we're just gonna do that on all of our petals all the way around. So again, 10 by 10 poly burlap. Here is my factory edges, my cut edges. Oh yeah, you're welcome, welcome Lisa. So I thought I'd do, you know, a Mardi Gras wreath. I don't actually sell too many of those being here in North Carolina. Not quite as big of a thing here as it is in other parts of the country, but I really love the colors and I just thought it would be a fun project to do, and I definitely want to add another one to my shop. So again, I'm clipping the edges here because I want those corners to be nice and this one's fraying a little. I think it'll be okay, but we'll see when we get done. Okay, I want those corners to stay nice and straight, nice and pointed. Okay, and then, all right, so I want to make sure my ends are nice and even. Okay, and then I'm going to just, oh, you know what? I forgot a step. See, I'm kind of new to this petal, so I already messed up. I bring this like this, and then I fold it over. Okay. I really don't like the way this one is looking because it's already fraying here. So let's move on to a different piece. Okay, so again, fold it into this purple. I don't know, I noticed that if you pre-cut your burlap, your poly burlap, like I did, this purple I think has been sitting for over a year. Some pieces got a tiny bit wrinkled, and that's when the fray starts to happen. And also the, you know, over handling will happen as well. The fray will happen as well, which is when I messed up the fold on that one, I kind of over handled it. So then I bring this over here and want those to be nice and even. So just need to bring this over a tiny bit more and then grab all this and into the zip tie. Now it might look, I'm going to hold this up in a second here, it might look like we have a lot of space between the petals right now, but the nice thing about the Unique in the Creek board is it's the way the holes are drilled. Everything is all set up so that your work, like your little nubbies and your zip ties, those are all going to be hidden. So like this, when I get to this one, it'll fill in this gap and then it'll start to cover the work that I've already done. So that's the nice thing about these boards. Okay, so again, I got my factory edges on the top and bottom, cut edges on the sides, fold it into a triangle. This one, I don't think I'm gonna have to clip because it is pretty nice and even. Okay, then I bring my point down and then fold this over and just kind of get that exactly the way I want it before I scrunch it. Okay, and into the zip tie. Okay, and I can kind of arrange these a little bit if I want to, kind of maybe like spread them out a little bit more. We'll see how that looks as I continue on here. Okay, so again, in a diamond shape. Okay, I think I'm gonna go back to, I'm just gonna clip these. I know it's an extra step, but it is kind of making my petals look a little bit neater. Oops. Okay, so now that those are secure, see, this is not lining up exactly, and that's totally fine. What I really want is for these edges to line up exactly to make the points of my pinwheel nice and neat. Okay, so I bring that over and just do a quick check here. That one's nice and even, and just scrunch that and right into the board. Okay. If anyone here is joining and has seen the live from last week where I did the Valentine's Day wreath kit, I know I had a lot of messages because it's showing is sold out on Etsy, and I do have more. I just need to, I'm waiting on some supplies to come in before I list them. I don't like to list things when I don't have the supplies on hand. So I'm just waiting on frames right now, and I ordered a whole bunch of frames from 2 different places. It's kind of a race to see which ones get here first, but I'm thinking the ones that I ordered over the weekend from Illinois are going to be here before the ones from Oregon, because I'm in North Carolina and the ones from Oregon are somewhere, I don't know where they are at the moment, but the other ones seem to be moving quicker. So as soon as I have those, the wreath kits will be reposted or relisted on Etsy if you're waiting to purchase those. Okay, so again, folding this into a diamond. I will be totally honest, this is my first wreath with all of this style petal. I've used the style petal on a different wreath, but just kind of intermingled with another petal. So if I'm kind of seem like I'm lumbering along a little bit here, it's only because this is not a style that I do too often, but I thought for Mardi Gras, a pinwheel style would be really fun and just something a little bit different, because I've shown kind of the same style of wreath several times already on these lives and wanted to just provide something different and wanted to show you how you use these Unique in the Creek flower boards. Thank you, Lisa. Okay. Again, this is like an older piece of that this has been sitting for a while, and this one frayed, so I'm not going to use that one. I generally don't like to use, waste, but there's certain petals that you fold that it doesn't matter if you have fray, because everything gets hidden. Just with like thinking ahead of how I'm folding my petal, if I see fray in certain areas, I'll just kind of put that piece and save it for something else, because I don't like to have the loose threads. And generally, when you use the wood burning tool, that doesn't happen. But like I said, this I cut it I think last year, and it's been sitting, like I moved it from like a couple different locations. Like it was in a drawer, then it was on a shelf. Like that's what happens. And plus, when you have pieces stacked on top of each other, they can get a little snagged when you're moving things around, and so that's pretty much what happened here. But majority of these pieces are fine. But that seems to be one of the biggest complaints when I see other wreath makers working with poly burlap, and you know, well, really not even just poly burlap, any mesh. And they, you know, how do I get this not to fray? It's like really impossible. It'll fray no matter what you do, but there are some things you can do to kind of help things along. So with me, it's keeping in mind how I'm folding my petals, because certain petals, you don't see any of the cut edges. So I'll just save those pieces for when I do that type of project. Okay, so we are good on the outside layer. That was only 8 petals. Okay, so I didn't tell you before I started putting stuff on this board, but the outer layer that we're not using is 16 holes, or 16 sets of holes, I should say. So you would end up with, if you used that row, you would have 16 petals. This row 2, which is what we just used, it has 8. Row 3 has 8, and row 4 has 4. The board, it's called Unique in the Creek, or UITC. If you put those letters in, UITC board, just in Google, it'll bring up what this is. So Unique in the Creek, they have their own website that you can purchase from. Whoops, missed one. Or there's some Etsy shops that sell them as well. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Not looking like much yet because we got some gaps, but we're gonna actually start working on filling those in, because like I said earlier, this next row is gonna help fill in. So that's exactly what we want. All right, so we're gonna use this nice emerald green color. So again, this is poly burlap, 10 by 10 inches, it's 10 inches. I cut it at 10 inches as well, so it's a 10 by 10 square. And we're going to do the same exact style petal on this next row here. Okay. So once again, I'm going to clip my little edges here because, oops, I'm a little bit off the camera. I can tell. Move this over a bit. Just to keep the points there nice and tidy. This point doesn't matter quite so much if it's not exactly lined up. That's okay. That's not what we're going to see. We're going to be seeing these points, which is what we want to keep nice and even there. Okay. So let's see. That looks pretty good. Scrunch this up and put that right in here. Okay. So as you can see, I'm working on my next row now. I'm filling in some of that gap. And what I can do, I can move these a little bit and make them a little bit, spread these out a bit too. I'm going to do that at the end actually. Okay. So I take my 10 by 10 poly burlap and I'm putting my factory edges on the top and bottom. UITC board. We got a couple of wrong letters there. Yeah, Unique in the Creek. So it's the abbreviation for that. UITC. If you can hear my husband, he's very enthusiastic in the other room, doing some sort of chess tournament. This is our like nerdy night. I do my crafting. He does chess. He plays online. Sounds like he either won or lost. I'm not sure what just happened, but I heard a lot of yelling. Okay, so make sure that's nice and even, and then just scrunch. Now, you know, if you've made these wreaths before, this is a lot to grab here. It is. It's okay. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, he's very loud. I should have closed the door all the way, I guess. But yeah, this is a big, like, kind of chunk to grab, and that's just the way this petal is. It's just like there's a lot of mesh there. There are other styles that look very similar to this, where it involves an extra cut of the mesh, which if I can get away with doing something that looks similar and not have to cut more, then that's what I do. But there is another way to make these sort of pinwheel style looking things with an extra cut. Again, I don't like to cut more than I need to. So I'm bringing this tip down to where I had folded previously, and then I'm just folding this over so that I have like 2 even points over here. Okay. And then I grab this, just give it a good scrunch and slide it into my board. Sorry, I know I'm a little off camera here. I'm just trying to leave work room and also leave room for my board. Okay. So we're on row 2 here, which is actually on the board. It's marked as row 3. I know it's a little confusing, but row 2 of this particular flower. We did not use row 1 on the board. You certainly could, but you just get a very large wreath. If that's what you're going for, then totally do that. If you know, this is just the small wreath board. There is a large one, which is quite a bit larger. You could really make a huge wreath if you use all of those rows of holes on that board. I have a couple. I just don't usually use them. They're kind of on hand for in case I want to make something really, really big and glamorous. But I'll be totally honest, the cost of shipping, the cost of boxes, everything has been going up. And so I prefer to try to keep things within, you know, a reasonable amount as far as what I can, you know, what I charge for shipping, and as far as what I look for in the boxes that I have to purchase to ship things. So just to, you know, give you an idea, the boxes I was using for my largest wreaths, last year I could get a pack of 15 for I guess it was just about $2-ish a box, and now they're well over $3 a box, sometimes even close to $4. You know, those expenses have to get factored in somewhere. So, you know, that's just, for me, I don't really like to make the really huge wreaths because then I need a really big box, and then it's more to ship, and, you know, it's, to me, it's just not, something I hate passing on those types of costs to my customers. So in general, I just try to keep everything within sort of the 21, 22-ish to about 24 is usually about the biggest size diameter wreath that I make. Okay, so again, I'm clipping these I'm just repeating so that people that are joining know what's going on. I folded this into a triangle. I'm clipping my little corners because that's what I want to be nice and even on my pinwheel. Okay, then I take the tip of my triangle and I'm folding it down to where it's folded already. And then I just bring this over and just doing a quick check to make sure the tips of my pinwheel here are even. And then I'm just grabbing the bottom, along the bottom here. Just scrunching that up and sliding it into my board. Okay, just like that. And we have 2 more on this row. So 2 more of this green. This green is really pretty. I kind of expected to use more of it for Christmas, and then, I don't know, Christmas got a little away from me. I had a Facebook reel go viral prior to Thanksgiving, and it was me making a yellow sunflower. And so I was making tons of yellow sunflowers around Thanksgiving, which was kind of crazy because I didn't even have that much yellow in stock. I had to go buy more materials and all that stuff. And then it just put me a little behind for Christmas, and I had some ideas and I didn't quite get to everything that I wanted to do. I also got really caught up in making bows, which was actually really fun because I love mixing and matching ribbon. I love making bows. But that got to be, I was getting tons of bow orders, which never a bad thing to get orders. But, you know, there were some nights where I would have to spend all my time making bows because I just had to fill those orders. And that meant I didn't have the time to make a wreath. So I have lots of this green. I'm actually going to be using this green for wreath kits for St. Patrick's Day. So my plan for that is to do something very similar to what's being offered for Valentine's Day. So I'm planning to offer I think I might do 2 styles, but only 1 set of colors because, okay, for St. Patrick's Day, I feel like this emerald green with white and orange, which is the Irish flag, is going to be, you know, what is going to work best for a wreath kit for St. Patrick's Day. And I have some shamrocks that are going to go sort of in the middle of the flower. And I think I might just maybe do like 2 different styles of flower, but just those colors. So it's almost a good thing that I ordered a lot of this green for Christmas because I'm going to use it for St. Patrick's Day. So those kits I think will be ready probably within the next couple of weeks. My goal is to have them ready by February 1st. Okay. So let me clip off these little nubs here and then I'll show you what I got going on. And we have 1 last row to do and there's only 4 petals on that inside layer. I apologize if I'm missing comments. If you missed earlier, this is kind of my first go around with this style of wreath. Using this particular petal, so I think I'm just overly concentrated on making sure this all looks good. So here is 2nd row now. Now I do see like right here, we just need to like move this a little bit. And I'm going to do that all that rearranging I'm going to do at the end. But this will look fine when it's done. It just needs to be a little bit moved around. Okay, that's what I have so far. Sorry. There we go. Okay. And the last row. So we're going back to the purple and we're going to do the same fold. Okay. So one of the other, I mentioned earlier how you could do this style petal with extra cutting and whatnot. So basically what you end up with there is instead of having a petal with 2 points, you just have the 1 point and then you can like alternate colors. I've seen some people do that. It's really pretty. It is just a lot of work because you think about it. If you're only getting a petal this big, whoops, like this big, just this top part, you need like twice as many. So it's a lot more folding. It's a lot more zip tying in and all that stuff. So it's really, you know, it depends how much time you want to commit to the project. So to me, doing the petal with the 2 points is good. We're still getting the colors in that I want for this Mardi Gras wreath, and we're getting really good coverage on the board. All of our work is going to be covered up by the time we finish this very last layer here. And yeah. Appreciate everyone sticking with me on this. I am not really much of a small talker. I also don't like to sit here and work in silence, especially when I know there's people watching. So I've gotten comments in the past where people want me to just shut up and make the wreath, and appreciate your feedback, but I don't want to just sit here and work and not say a word. I think that would be even more awkward than some of the filler combo that I have with myself here. Okay, 2 more. Okay. All right, let's see. This one's definitely a little, oh no, I thought it was going to be a little bit wonky, but it's not too bad. I apologize. I know I'm slightly off the camera frame here. I'm running out of room. I have this table is like I think an IKEA dining table I got secondhand from someone, and you'd think that should be big enough to do like any craft on, and I still run out of room. I also have a lot of junk on the table too, though, so that doesn't really help. Okay. So with the kits, I mentioned we have Valentine's Day kits. Those are out of stock, but they'll be restocked as soon as I have more materials. It should be just a few more days before I can get those restocked on Etsy. And then upcoming, I have the St. Patrick's Day wreath kits. So what comes in a kit? So basically everything you need to make the wreath. So the mesh is all pre-cut for you. I give you a couple extra pieces in case you mess up. You get the wreath frame, you get whatever you need for the center, which is going to sort of vary depending on what the kit is. But for the Valentine's one, you have a wooden heart with your choice of paint color that I provide for you. I give you the zip ties. I give you basically everything you need. The only items you would still need in the kit would be, you do need some sort of paintbrush of some sort in order to paint your center, and you hot glue as well. Okay, so this is what happens when we do things on the fly here. So I know I'm gonna need another row, or not another row, I need more petals. Okay, so even with spreading these out, I still feel like I have too many gaps around the middle here. Okay, I'll hold this up so you can see. I kind of anticipated that this was going to happen because with these Unique in the Creek boards, a lot of times when you get to the center, what did I do? Oh, here's. So when you get to the center here, a lot of times what people do, and what I'm going to do right now, I had not planned on it, but I'm going to because I need to fill in, they will share holes. So like, right, so we have like these two holes go together, and then these two, because they're close together, and there's like a little bit more space between the other holes. So what we're gonna do is, on this board that I'm working on, I'm going to share like the two holes that don't actually go together, and that's gonna fill in the center. So I actually do that quite a bit on other wreaths. I just wasn't sure if I was going to need to do that on this one, and now I can see that I do. So you just need to add 4 more. So get out a couple more zip ties. And my center, once I add it, is going to cover a lot of it, but I don't want there to be any possibility that you can see any of the board or any of my zip ties from previous rows through. So I'm just going through, so I'm working right in between where those 4 petals on that inner layer are, and I'm putting a zip tie right here. Okay, so it's going to cover this. So we're going to end up with 8 petals on each layer that we're doing. So that's still, in the grand scheme of things, that's still very good as far as like material cost if you're looking to do this yourself, because 8 times 3 layers, that's 24 petals. That's not even 1 full roll of poly burlap. Because with the poly burlap comes in 10-inch by 10-yard rolls. So that's, if you're cutting 10-inch pieces, you should get approximately, well, usually it ends up being about 32 to 33 pieces out of your roll, just because sometimes there's weird edges and stuff that you have to kind of like cut around. So you should get 36 if it were a perfect world, but normally I get 32 to 33 pieces. And so since this whole wreath only is 24 pieces of poly burlap, that equates to just less than 1 roll. Now, obviously, if you're going to do something with more than 1 color, I still had to buy 2 rolls because I want my alternating colors. Can you get the squares pre-cut? No, you can't. If you buy a kit from me, I pre-cut the squares for you. But otherwise, it just comes in a roll and you got to cut it yourself. Why am I clipping the ends? So, yeah, for anyone just joining, I'm clipping the ends because I'm taking my poly burlap. Here are my factory edges on the top and bottom here, and then here are my cut edges. So I'm turning it into a diamond and I'm making a triangle. Now with this style wreath, I care about these ends on this pinwheel being nice and pointy, nice and perfect. So it doesn't matter so much that I line this up perfectly. I want to line this, and this up perfectly. So I'm clipping the ends because it's helping when I go through the folding process, it is helping to keep those ends together. I hope that makes sense. The clips really do come in handy if you are, you know, just new to the folding process and you need to, maybe your hands aren't super strong, because like, look at this one. Okay. This is, the thing is the squares are not always exactly 10 by 10 because I'm human. Okay. They're not always exactly perfect. I do my very best, but sometimes they're a tad off. Like this one is off. And how do I know? Because I have my ends clipped here and the top is not meeting exactly. That doesn't matter for this petal because what I'm doing is that this all gets hidden. It doesn't matter that that's not going to be perfectly a point. Certain other petals, it does matter. Like you do want that to be exact, and I would clip the top. But here I care about the edges being perfect, so I clip the edges. So then I bring that down. See, it doesn't matter. This is getting hidden because I'm about to fold over. So that's gone completely. You don't even see that anymore. So it doesn't matter that it's maybe not perfect in there. I care about that being perfect right there. Yes, it is a Unique in the Creek small board. Okay, and if you're just joining, we're almost done. I thought I was done, but then I realized that on my very inside row of petals, I needed some extras to fill in some gaps. So that's what I'm doing now. So I had 4 and I'm just adding 4 more. So I'm doing the, if you're familiar with Unique in the Creek, I'm doing the shared hole method where I have my holes that match up together. I've already filled those and now I'm just sharing. So basically I have these holes that I'm using to put this extra layer of petals in has 2 zip ties going through. I'll show you the back. Just get this one in. So see, we're sharing the holes. So I have one more to do. Whoops. I have one more to do, but there's like 2 zip ties coming out of here and so on. Okay. It's pretty common for people to do that with these boards. And it's just gonna, it's filling it in. It's gonna make it nice and full and cover all of our zip ties on our other rows. So I am good with that. So, like I said, again, this wreath is good as far as materials since you're only using the 24 pieces of poly burlap. You know, obviously still needing to buy 2 rolls if you want to use 2 colors. That's kind of one of the other benefits of buying a wreath kit, is because, like, for example, the Valentine's kit has 3 different colors in it. And so one of the colors that you're using on the outside of that particular kit, you use 20 pieces, and then there's a layer of white where you use 10, and then the last layer on the inside you only use 5. So the thing is, if you got to buy 3 rolls of that poly burlap and then you're only going to use 5 or 10 pieces, you got a lot left over. If you're just making a wreath for yourself, you're going to want to come up with another project to use that extra because the stuff is not cheap. If you're a wreath maker though, you usually find something else to do with those, all that extra. Whoops, had that facing the wrong way. The reason I had it like this, every single other petal I've been doing is like this. You really want to, when you do these flowers, pay attention to where your factory edges are and your cut edges, because your flower will not look consistent if you have the edges kind of all different. Okay, so that's why I make sure that when I'm folding and doing all that, that it's always the same way. Okay, this is the last petal. Okay, I'm just grabbing all this down here. Okay, again, you're wanting to make sure that those points are nice and even so that we get that pinwheel style effect. If it's not all even, it's just gonna look a little weird. Okay. Now another thing I'll show you on camera, so I'll bring this over here. Another thing I gotta do with some of these ones I just added is just make sure they're kind of layered correctly. So just because of the way I was doing all these, I want this to kind of be a little bit more on top, and just kind of, again, for consistency purposes, I want all these to lay the same way I was kind of doing it as I went along. It was just really that last one I needed to fix. Okay, so there we have that. Okay, and thank you, Pat. All right, last thing to do then. Okay, so I am still not at the point where I want to do this on camera. So this is already done. Hold on. Got a little tiny bit of fraying happening here, and I'm just gonna snip it before it gets any more happens. Okay. Gotta catch that right at the beginning here. Okay, so I have this super, I changed my Facebook Live so that like if I have a sign or something, my words will show up correctly instead of backwards, but now I'm like way off as far as where I need to move things on camera. So here I have this gold sparkly center that I'm going to be using. This was using glitter rope, okay, and it's on a half a styrofoam ball. So I'm not doing this on camera because it does take some time, and I usually burn myself and then some bad words come out of my mouth. I didn't want to do that on camera, but let me just grab, well, here's one that doesn't have anything on it. So basically it comes in a whole ball, and then I cut it in half. Okay, so this is what I started with. This is about a 4-inch ball, and I cut it in half. So then I don't have any more of this glitter rope to show you, like, loose. Plus it's a huge mess. The glitter falls off everywhere. But basically then what I do is I usually sort of carve out a little hole in the very center here, and I take a whole bunch of glue and a floral pin and put the end of my rope in the very center here, and then I just start gluing and winding and gluing and winding until the whole thing is covered. Okay, and then I finish it off with, I have a floral pin and another big glob of glue, and then I also glue in a floral pin with a pipe cleaner so that I can attach it to my wreath. Now, I've had people ask, why don't I just take this and just glue it right on? I would highly not recommend that because, you know, hot glue, it's good, but it's not that good. This is actually pretty heavy with this glittery rope on here. So I would never trust just gluing anything onto this poly burlap because this stuff kind of melts when you put glue on it. I mean, I make a wreath that it's a American flag and I glue stars on. You better believe I put a whole lot of glue and like a little dab of Gorilla Glue too, because the hot glue, it kind of melts this a little bit. And so I would never trust just gluing onto this, this material because I mean, we're in winter months now, so we're not worried so much about humidity and that type of stuff. But in the summer, you better believe that your wreath is going to cook on your door if you live somewhere warm or if it's in direct sunlight, and that hot glue is going to get compromised and it's going to fall off. Okay. Or I never had anyone tell me this, and it never has happened to me, but some people have reported that the glue will literally just run right off their wreath, like onto their door. I would never want that to happen, so that is why I wire everything as much as possible. I mean, glue obviously helps hold everything in place, but I will always, okay, so I just fed my pipe cleaners through here. It's a little hard to find because I have so many petals, but I got it through, and I'm just going to give it a couple of twists here. And, oh my goodness, I need to get with the program here. I really wish this purple was showing up a little better on camera. It looks a little blah, but it's definitely a really, really nice, vibrant purple. I think just maybe bad lighting. I think when I take pictures with my really good light tomorrow, you'll get the full effect of this really being really beautiful Mardi Gras colors. So that is my pinwheel style wreath. What I'll probably do now that I'm looking at it. I'll hang this on my door or my wall, and I'm gonna go back through and sort of straighten some of these a little just so it's nice and even looking. There's a few that could be sort of moved a bit. I think I'll hang it up and do that. So make sure it's nice and even. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Definitely check back on Etsy if you're waiting on a Valentine's Day wreath kit. I should be able to get those relisted. I'm fingers crossed tomorrow. Hopefully, if not tomorrow, then as soon as those frames get here from either Illinois or Oregon. They're currently in a race, and I think Illinois is going to win. And it says they're getting here tomorrow, but there's also been no updates on my FedEx for like 2 days because I've been checking constantly. So we will see, but keep checking back. I'll put something on my Facebook page to let everyone know that when those are back in stock. And within the next couple weeks, watch for a lot more of this green to be coming up because we'll be using those for St. Patrick's Day. That's it. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. You have a great night, and take care. Bye.